Hey guys, this is the law of cosines video, and so this is going to be a continuation of the notes that we did in the first couple of videos. So it is, okay, let me find my sheet that's the front. I have it hiding or something. This is the note sheet, hold on. For the packet that starts like this. And it was like we did law of signs, and then we did ambiguous case, and then this is the pages after that. And so go ahead and find that. We're going to go through a couple of problems here. So this is the law of cosines that we're going to talk about today. Oh, gosh, my chair's messed up. And so let's talk about this. So we've talked about a few different kinds of triangles. We've talked about, let me find the chart. You have this on a different page, but we talked about if it's angle, angle, side, if it's angle, side, angle, you're going to choose regular law of sines. If it's side, side, angle, you're going to use the law of sines, but that's the ambiguous case. So you're going to check for a second solution in that example. But this is now, we're going to move into what if we have a side angle side, and what if we have a side side side, and in that case law of sines does not work. We don't have what we need. So let's take a look at this first example here. So it says solve the triangle, which as we know means find all the solutions or all the sides and all the angles. It says notice that the law of sines cannot be used because it requires knowledge of at least one angle and an opposite side. In order to use the law of sines, we have to have one complete ratio. We have to know one angle and its opposite side. In this case, we do not have that. We have a side, the included angle, and then the side. So we do have two sides and an angle, but we don't have side B. So we have angle B, but not side B. So we do not have a complete ratio. Here we have this side, which would be C, but we don't know angle C. And here we don't know angle A. So even if we set this up, if I said B over the sine of 124 equals, let's say, 20 over the sine of C, now I have two variables and I can't solve that. The same thing would happen if we did B over sine 124 equals 15 over sine of A. We just don't have enough information to use the law of sines. So this is where we use what's called the law of cosines, and it's going to use, you guessed it, cosine. Okay, and so here is the law of cosines. These are actually all the same formula. I've just given them to you in three different ways, just based on what information you have, but really it's the exact same thing, okay? So if you have little a, little b, and little c, still your sides, the big angles, or the big capital letters are still your angles. So that part doesn't change. And it just depends on what you know, okay? So you're gonna use whichever one of these works for what information you have. They are the exact same formula with the letters just rearranged, okay? And so notice it's very similar to the Pythagorean theorem. We have a squared equals b squared plus c squared, which is very Pythagorean theorem-like because it's still a triangle, but we're subtracting something since it's not a right triangle. This is what we would use for not a right triangle. Okay, so the law of cosines can be used to find the side length or angles as long as three of the four variables in the equation are known. So you need to have at least three of these things. So you would use the law of cosines if you had a side angle side, this is on your chart, or a side side side. It's a little bit harder than the law of sines. I shouldn't say it, it's not harder. The formula is weird. So if we can use the law of sines, we want to do that because it's simpler. But this is not harder, it takes a little bit more time, and the formula is strange. There are a couple of things I want to point out to you quickly before we start. So if you have a side angle side situation, I'm making sure I'm telling you the same thing. There's kind of an order that you have to go in here, which where law of sines there isn't, in order to get the correct right answer that isn't going to give you something strange. If it's a side angle side, you're going to do the law of cosines. So you're going to pick whichever formula you have here, okay? And then after that, you're gonna have, so the law of cos, if you have a side angle side, the law of like in this picture, I would use the law of cosines to get me side little b, so that I would then have a complete ratio. Okay, so the goal here is we would use this formula that has the b in it. I'm going to show you, we're going to do this exact one here just a second. And we're going to find little b, that gives us a complete ratio. So you're going to do that first. After that, once you have a complete ratio, you can use the law of sines. It's easier and faster. And so, but the way we're going to do that to make sure we get the right information is we're going to then find the smallest angle. And that seems like who cares which one we find first, but it does matter. It can give you the wrong answer or a weird answer if you do it a different way, okay? We're also gonna have side, 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 where we have all three sides and no angles. In order to get the correct answer there, you have to find the largest angle first. So make yourself a note about that. And we'll review both of these things in these examples so you can see that. But these are this is a big deal, okay? Weird stuff happens if you don't find the biggest angle first. And so we just are trying to avoid that. Really, let me say this. Really what happens if you have a side, side, side and you don't find the largest angle first, you end up with a case of side, side angle, which then makes it the ambiguous case and it gets confusing. There could be two answers. And so by saying if you find the largest angle first, it kind of eliminates the possibility of there being an ambiguous case situation. So we're just trying to avoid that. Okay. Same thing with this by doing the smallest one first. We're trying to eliminate a potential ambiguous case issue. Okay, so let's try to, we're going to do this picture up here, I can't show all of you that, so I'm going to redraw the triangle just so I have, so that you can see it, and I'm going to try to leave the formulas for now. Okay, and so in theory, you should only have to do the law of cosines really one time, hopefully. Okay, and so here's that triangle. You don't necessarily have to redraw it. I'm redrawing it because I can't get my camera to neatly show everything all at one time. And I wanted to be able to reference the picture, but you can always you can draw on the picture at the top if that's easier for you. Okay, so we can't do law of sines. We already talked about that. So we're going to do law of cosines. I have capital B, I have angle B, so I'm going to use this formula that uses angle B. Do y'all see that? And it's going to help me find little b, which is what I want. Again, these are the same formulas, just rearranged to find the one that you are looking for. So I'm going to say, always write the formula first. B squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of b. Okay, and so I'm just going to plug stuff in. I don't know b, so that stays as b squared. A is 15, so 15 squared. C is 20 plus 20 squared times 2 times 15 times 20, because that's A and C again, cosine of 124. Okay, now when you have the angle, you could just type this into your calculator. You could just type this whole thing just the way it is right into your calculator because there's no variables in here. Now in the later example, there's going to be variables in the middle. We're going to have to do some simplifying, but here this has no variables. You can type it right in. You need to be really careful and make sure you don't type it in weird, okay, or wrong, I guess. So let's type it in. So I'm going to do 15 squared plus 20 squared, and then it's a minus. Be really careful to not always do a plus there. 2 times 15 times 20 times the cosine of 124. And you get b squared. It's going to give you a decimal because it has cosine in it. Most angles are going to give you a decimal unless it's like a special 35 or 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90. So I'm going to put b squared equals 960.5157. And then to get b by itself and get rid of that square, I have to square root it. So I'm going to do the square root of this. So I'm going to do square root and then put the answer in. To get answer, we do second negative, but you could just type it in. You get 30.99. Oops. I'm going to put 3 decimals, so 30.992. So that's your B. Now we have a whole ratio, okay? I know that this B here is now 30.992, so now I can write a complete ratio and use the law of sines to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so that's usually what we'll do. Notice we said find the smallest angle of what's left. The smallest angle is going to be across from the smallest side. So the smallest side is the 15, which goes with A. So I'm going to set up a ratio to find little a, or excuse me, to find angle A, because angle A is going to be smaller than C because it's across from a smaller side. So I'm going to say 15 over the sine of A equals 30.992 over the sine of 124. Okay, you're going to cross multiply, let's see, 30.992, oops, sine of A equals, I'm going to run out of room, 15 sine of 124. So you're going to do 15 sine of 124 divided by 30.992. So we get sine of A equals 0.4013. So I'm going to do second answer. Okay, and we get angle A equals 23.656. Oh, this is an angle, so we can round it. 24 degrees. Okay, so this here is 24. Now that we know 2 of the angles, to find the third one, we just need to subtract from 180. I already know these 3 add up to 180, so the measure of angle C is going to be 180 minus 124 minus 24. And this is not geometry, so you don't need to put measure of angle C. So I'm going to do 180 minus 124 minus 24, and I get 32 degrees. And again, if you just have capital C equals 32 degrees, that's totally fine. Okay, so that was an example of doing side, angle, side. Okay, I'm going to stop this video and do another video that goes through the last problem on your note sheet, which is 3 sides, side, side, side. So make sure you watch that video because that one's a little bit different.